Welcome back. President Biden now claims it's Republicans who want to cut funding for the border security. He tweeted out this: GOP proposals would slash funding, calling it a move, quote, that could allow nearly 900 pounds of fentanyl into our country. Joining me right now is North Carolina Congressman Greg Murphy. He's a member of the Veterans Affairs, House Ways and Means, and Administration Committees. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being
Good
here.
morning, Maria.
So we know you've been to the border. All your colleagues have been raising the red flag about the wide open border. How is it possible that Joe Biden gets to tweet out that it's you and your colleagues that want to cut funding for the border and allow all this fentanyl to flow into the country?
Well, Maria, it's ridiculous. It's fairy tale kind of speak. If you look at what's happened with the border over the last 2 years, the amount of fentanyl that has poured over our border, subsequently, we're seeing record amounts of people dying from drug overdoses, even to the tune where the cost of fentanyl on the streets of America has actually dropped about 50% because of the supply. It's laughable, to be very honest with you. It's laughable that Joe Biden and his cadre would say that we don't want a secure border. So it's just typical from the Biden administration to not tell us, the American people, the truth. And this is just another sequelae, another one of their continuation of mistruths.
People are so sick of the politics. These are national security issues. And to go back and forth on whose fault it is so disingenuous. I know that Republicans are planning to vote on your #1 bill. That's the major HR1 energy bill this week. Congressman, why did you make the energy bill your #1 bill, HR1, and tell us more about that? Will this pass? Because the president also has been driving his climate change agenda. Do you have any expectation that this actually passes, your energy bill?
Well, I think it passes the House. Maria, since day one, literally the president walked over from being, quote, the unity president at his address and went over to the White House and began slashing and attacking the American way of life. And the American way of life depends upon energy. We depend upon energy to live, to transport, to go from one place to the next. And what he's done is he's absolutely slashed the way we fuel our economy. He went over and killed the Keystone Pipeline. He destroyed leases on federal lands. It's all in the name of religion, of climatology and climate change. Now, I think if we look at this realistically, there is something going on with our environment, but to absolutely just try to kill and, quote, in his words, transform the American way of life is ruining this country. And we've come from energy independence now to energy dependence. He went over to Russia, to Saudi Arabia, to Venezuela to beg oil from those countries, when we really, just prior to his administration, were independent in this. And then if you look to take this out a little bit further, if God forbid we end up in a further conflict in Ukraine, and then we end up in a further conflict with China and Taiwan, we're going to need to be energy independent. So HR1 really is our main priority to get this back to our country so that we have independence if, God forbid, something greater would happen.
Well, you and Congressman Jason Smith, the chairman of House Ways and Means, are raising questions about the funding source for the Penn Biden Center, specifically whether a foreign investment found its way to Biden's former think tank. I want to ask you about this because there are a lot of questions about President Biden's response to communist China. And I spoke with Jason Smith about this last week. Here's what he said about what constituents are feeling right now. Watch.
They cannot comprehend why Joe Biden and this administration is not pushing back on China's aggression on the United States unless there's something that is keeping them from doing that. And we need to get down to figure out what that something could be.
Congressman, we've heard all about the Oversight Committee's investigation into the Biden family's influence peddling. Senator Ron Johnson was with me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures. He told me that when he was doing this investigation and looking for Biden bank records, the only bank that would give him any records was Cathay Bank. Now, this is a bank that was founded by Chinese Americans to service the Chinese community, but it's an American bank. It has offices in China, offices in Taipei, and yet that's the only bank that gave Ron Johnson any bank records. He said that maybe was a message to Joe Biden. There's more where that came from, Joe Biden, unless you do what we want. from the CCP.
Yeah.
How do you see all of this?
I think the Chairman Smith's comments were spot on. There is something. I mean, it's you can't ignore this. There is something going on between the Chinese Communist Party and the Biden family. We saw money transferred to Walker, and then he got transferred to the Biden family. Now we see them funding the Penn Biden Center, and then subsequently President Biden got $900,000 salary from them. We don't know all these things are going on. And the thing is, it's very interesting, Maria, and I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist about this, but when this all broke, it became a big news story. Amazingly enough, the week later or very soon thereafter, the whole thing of DA with President Trump came in just a few days later. Was it there or done on purpose to try to destroy the news cycle? I'm not going to be a theorist on that, but it's very, very apparent that the Biden family and the president are beholden to the Chinese Communist Party one way or another, whether they're being extorted or what, we just don't know. But we're going to find out. We're absolutely going to find out.
Well, I raised that question as well, because as soon as James Comer got the first batch of bank records that actually indicated to us that $3 million was sent from communist China companies to Rob Walker's account, and then the very next day he distributes more than $1 million of that to Biden family members. This happens just days. This happens on one week, and then just days later, the DA announces that Trump is going to be, Trump announces that the DA is going to indict him on Twitter. Congressman, we're going to follow this as well, but I know you've also been raising the issue of the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I want to get your take here because Veterans Affairs is buying drugs from China. You're the co-chairman of the GOP Doctors Caucus. What's going on? Why is the Veterans Affairs buying drugs from China?
Well, we had a very good meeting with a gal named Rosemary Gibson, about her book, China R-X, last week. The Doctors Caucus, we all meet once a week and go through topics. And she brought out to the fact that the VA had a ruling in 2016 that the VA could then purchase non-TAA drugs, Trade Agreement Act countries, with those countries. And so I brought this up with the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and I have to say, to his credit, he was very open to this. He was unaware about this. But if you look at what's going on with China, our own FDA is not doing inspections of APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients that are coming from China. They're not looking at our generics at all. And we look at, look at some of the drugs that have come into this country. We get to the point now, our drugs are not, in my opinion, safe. We have several universities. University of Kentucky, for example, is now doing its own research on these generics coming from other countries because we can't trust what they're putting in them. And so now I've asked the secretary, and he was very amenable to this, to look into why the VA is giving these medicines from countries that we don't have trade agreements with, specifically, I will say, China. Why is he giving these medications to our veterans? So he said he's going to go back and look at this. We need to seal this. We need to bring back to either onshore these pharmaceutical drugs or bring them to near shore in case, God forbid, China is doing something nefarious to its drug supply to this country. But we would have no idea. We're not checking. The FDA is not doing its job. The FDA has not done on-site inspections in any of these other foreign countries in 2 years. In 2 years to really see what's going on. We just have to be careful of our drug supply. If, God forbid, there were any hostilities with China, we would have 2 months of drugs left in this country. So it's a major issue we have to get a hold of.
Well, how come we're not getting a hold of it already then, Congressman? I mean, during COVID, we saw the propaganda from the Chinese Communist Party on Xinhua News and all of those Chinese websites, and they speculated, well, maybe we won't send the prescription drugs that are made in China to America right now because they're forcing an investigation into the Wuhan lab. They've already threatened us through their media propaganda.
Absolutely. But the infrastructure, just to be truthful, honestly with you, Maria, to be truthful, the infrastructure for that cannot be built in a day. And yes, wouldn't it be great to be able to put those things in Central America and some of the other places? And they're working on this. Folks are being very diligent about this. But here we go again. The over-regulation that the left and the Democrats want to put in government is absolutely stymieing our ability to bring these things back. And so
All right,
it's more
yeah.
taxation. Again, they want to tax corporations. So what happens to corporations? They want to go off seas. It's just a very hostile policy of this administration against American business.
Yeah, it's not very smart to be relying on communist China for the very important drugs that we need, in particular prescription drugs. I mean, come on. I mean, we need to certainly make a move on this. Congressman, we're going to be watching. We'll keep a spotlight on it. Thanks very much for your leadership on this issue. Very important. Greg Murphy joining us this morning. We'll be right back.